Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on what time zone you're watching this in and what time you tune in. In the original kind of introductory recording, we talked about wanting to explore the notion of relational capitalism a little bit further and kind of unpack that a little bit and see what do I mean. And I thought a good entry into the conversation about what relational capitalism looks like as opposed to transactional would be this story that ran in the AP. So if you'll forgive me, I'm going to be looking down as I read this off my device. But I just want to give you the top level of this story. British drug maker GlaxoSmithKline will pay $3 billion, that's billion with a B, in fines, the largest healthcare fraud settlement in U.S. history, for criminal and civil violations involving 10 drugs that are taken by millions of people. So that's just the lead of that article. So from the lead you get that they paid a hefty fine for criminal actions that were fraudulent and that affected millions of people. But notice that they're at no point in the lead of this story, and in fact I could read the entire story, but I think the lead suffices. At no point in that story did it ever come up about the relationship this company, its leadership, its backers, its shareholders, have with the community at large. And when you contrast that lack of relationship, with the fact that many of these CEOs of many of these companies live in gated communities, quite set apart from the millions of people affected by their decisions. And this, to me, is what allows for things like abuse and fraud and bribery, because it's all driven by the same kind of false idea that you can do all these things if you're prepared to just cut a check and allow that to be the cost of doing business. In a relational system, what you're trading on, and in fact what everyone is really trading on at the end of the day, but in relational capitalism, what you're trading on, the transaction, results from the relationship. And your business plan and your business approach and how you make your decisions and the things that you do, and more importantly the things that you refuse to do, are all driven by that relationship. The problem with the current approach to regulation, such as ours, is that incredibly, outrageously fraudulent actions by a negligent few can be resolved by cutting a check. And so it's not sanction so much as expense. And I think that is really just the best way to highlight the problematic nature of a transactional society. Because what happens here? After they cut the check for $3 billion to the federal government, what happens? What happens? Does the industry change? Do the people change? Is anyone held to account to the millions of people who are affected by these decisions? No. Because the transaction of justice has been completed, and here's your receipt. We can do better. We have to do better. And it's why I started Vox Pop Communications, because I know we can do better. So, as I said, I promised to follow up to the idea of relational capitalism. There it is, in today's news. As you read your headlines, as you see more of this stuff unfolding, because we will, it's the age in which we live. We're dominated by what Buddhism calls the three poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness. Those are the headlines every day: greed, anger, and foolishness. But we can do better, and we have to do better. We can do it by starting out with our relationship first, by remembering that we are interconnected, by remembering that we have relationships with each other, and we should be grateful for each other, because without living beings there could be no us. Without the community there can be no individual. That's what's lacking in the leadership of SmithKline, GlaxoSmithKline. That's what's lacking in the leadership of, say, an Enron back in the day, or a Barclays in today's headlines. That's what's lacking. This idea of interconnectedness, interbeing, because it's all transactional. And I hope you see why that's such a problem. And I hope you'll work with me to build the solution, the way out. We know the house is on fire for American capitalism. We know it. But it's time for us to work together and put out that fire. I think the way we do it is by exploding this idea of relational capitalism. And really, let's have that conversation. So post a response. I'd be interested to hear from you. And thanks for watching. Bye.